What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting edition of Evening Alpha. I'm your host, Todd. And yeah, man, we have an awesome show for you guys tonight. I see Willie D and KG are already taking bets, and Rages too on when we were going to start. I think I win. It's really nice when you actually have the control of the button to start, because I just keep winning. Like I like this game better than our night games where I get slaughtered every night. But that's cool. It's fine. Everything's good. Anyway, we have a great show for you tonight. I cannot wait for you guys to discover and be introduced to our guests tonight. But first, we got a couple things. I'm going to bring on a little Dusty Sky for a little bit of housekeeping. We got some awesome announcements in the adult fantasy universe. And so, yeah, Dusty, unmute yourself and let us know what's up. He's muted. You got to unmute yourself. I muted you.
Thank you for muting me, Todd. I am now unmuted. Hello. Awesome. So tonight we are doing a giveaway as usual. So we'll be giving away an adult fantasy NFT. You'll need to like this video, subscribe, and say something in the chat, right? Say hi, say this is awesome, say Todd is beautiful, say something, right? And we will get you on the prize wheel and we'll run it later tonight. Next up, we are making some changes to the bounty missions and to the prizes. So we're going to be giving out additional prizes for the missions, including the ones that have already been done. So we'll go ahead and update you very soon in the Discord and keep an eye on that, but it's going to be good. And lastly, our friends at SlenderDAO here have given us 10 whitelists for their upcoming mint to give away. So I think in our community announcements later tonight, we'll open that up. It'll probably be first come, first serve, so be ready for it. But they'll be free whitelists.
And we definitely want to thank SlenderDAO for such a generous offer. Thank you guys so much.
Huge thank you.
Absolutely. And let me tell you, man, like the art contest, the adult fantasy art contest, adding prizes. You guys already know that if you win, you get a percentage of royalty off of the next drop. And we're just stacking and stacking and stacking. So we've taken that value and we've stacked it, and then we stacked it some more. So it's a ridiculous prize, man. And I'm
good.
Yeah. What's up? Yeah. It's pretty darn good. So please jump in, keep going. You guys are kicking ass. I can't wait to see the designs. All right. And with that, so Dusty, thank you so much, sir. I'm going to move you to the green room, sir. Let's do that. He's all like ready for it. Awesome. And with that, I'm so happy and so proud to welcome SlenderDAO. What's up, Zach? What's up, Anth? How you guys doing?
Not bad, Todd. Thanks so much for having us on today. It's
good.
It's an honor. I love the whole setup you guys have here going on. I think a lot of the action that we usually get is on Twitter Spaces, but there's a whole different world, especially on video streaming, and it feels energizing to be here doing this right now.
Absolutely, that's certainly something we could talk about, man. I could tee off on that forever. But before we jump in too deep, like I'm super curious, and I'm sure everybody wants to know, like, what is SlenderDAO?
Man, SlenderDAO is probably the simplest thing that we have to offer. And that is, like, you might be familiar with concepts from last year's bull market, like Constitution DAO, Dune DAO, which became Spice DAO, Blockbuster DAO. It's an acquisition DAO to acquire the rights to the internet's favorite monster meme, Slender Man, which everyone knows. And the reason why that's different than things that have sort of come before is because all we want to do is option the film rights for the character and make a community-driven elevated horror movie about Slender Man. So instead of trying to buy a big brand, instead of trying to buy this highly coveted, expensive artifact, when then it's like, well, what do we do with it? We have a very concrete goal that's people option entertainment rights all the time, film space. We identified this as a cool thing to do within the context of our greater umbrella, which is the what we're calling the Hidden Lake Cinematic Universe, which is a monster mystery franchise native to Web3. We've got feature films, we've got short films live already. We've got our Hidden Ones collection, which minted out earlier this year. So there's this whole ecosystem, and SlenderDAO is now the flag we're planting in the ground as the next step for the project. We're super excited about it.
That's awesome. So I'm really curious. I know Slender Man, obviously. What's the deal with the rights? Is it something? Is it like we know? Like if you dive into rights, and especially with intellectual properties, I mean, if you look at stuff like, like there was an issue with Marvel. My background's at Marvel and Disney and things like and Cartoon Network, and so like there's always issues with intellectual property rights. Like there was been a huge issue forever. I mean, it's just recently been summed up because Disney bought Fox, but for I think like a decade or two, like they didn't have the rights to Fantastic Four or X-Men or Spider-Man because Sony had Spider-Man, I believe, and then like Fox had X-Men and Fantastic Four. So they couldn't. That's why those characters weren't in that first big 10-year arc of all the stuff, right? And then if you look at the rights, the challenges with I think Universal and Paramount with Star Trek. So what happened with Slender Man that makes it kind of in question? Like it's like what happened to this kind of almost mythic, it's really like a Freddy Krueger level character.
Yeah, it's a super interesting story, and there's a lot of holes in it, really, which is part of our goal is to figure out, what the heck this even is. We've got some good hypotheses about, the current state of the rights, but the background on it is that I was, browsing Wikipedia one day, just kind of like I've got my International Cryptozoology Museum hat on. You can see my Bigfoot UFO poster over here. I'm a huge geek for that kind of stuff. Anth knows this well. And I was just reading the Wikipedia article for Slender Man, and I at the bottom of it, there was a note, this little aside that said, after this company, Mythology Entertainment, a production company, produced the 2018 Slender Man, if anyone remembers that, was very poorly received. I haven't seen it yet. So I'm withholding judgment. But after the movie came out in 2019, this production company dissolved. And the note was that it kind of leaves the location and custody of the rights in question. Did it go back to the original creator of Slender Man, Victor Surge, whose real name is Eric Knudsen, who is a writer on various shows, and he's been very lenient with the exploitation of Slender Man. In terms of like licensed and unlicensed creations too. So, the history of Slender Man is one wise, storytelling with Marvel and, other fan created stuff that just is allowed to exist and in a lot of cases make a profit. So kind of getting off into a tangent there. We part of the fun of it is that, we need to track down where the heck the rights are, because if they're in question, then there's an opportunity for that. And that's kind of what we're setting out to do. Anth, do you have anything to add for that?
Totally. I would say that, it's interesting being in Web3. Like, it's like, well, what's the purpose of being here? And I think that the project really, like what we're trying to solve for ourselves and and be sort of a case study for the community, because so much of this community is very like so far pretty transparent about like, oh, I'm trying this, I'm doing that, or it's just transparent in the sense that like, you could even see like our record, we've tried to iterate so many different times with this creation that we've made, and you can go back and track our past and see, oh, that's when they were trying this is when the market was booming, that's when they were trying that. And we want to, like, we're down for it. Watch our failings. Yeah. We're not going away. So yeah. I think what's interesting in our project here really is to explore a generative Web3 community approaching licensing. Because, we're having this conversation about IP, like, me getting Captain America, like I will get laughed out of every room I am ever in infinitum the rest of my life. Like there's no way me as like an independent filmmaker are going to get an IP like that. But Web3 for us, it's opening the landscape for acquisitions of IP that are dormant right now. Like for us, Slender Man is it's just the perfect dormant cryptid that's just waiting to be unlocked. And we see it over there. And we're like, A, we need to find you. And B, we need to tell a story and revive you back into the ecosystem. And it's like, we're grassroots. Yeah. If Web3 wasn't here generating this massive community and like this buzz, we wouldn't be in a position to be like seriously talking about trying to acquire optioning something that usually a studio or someone like that is able to do. So we are trying to I mean, it's kind of, it would sound ridiculous to anyone else maybe who's just new, who hears about like newer filmmakers trying to get in on this licensing game, but like that's really the project we're trying to take on here.
That's so crazy, man. I mean, it seems like such a golden opportunity because there aren't that many characters that have reached that level, like penetrated the mainstream culture that deep, right? I mean, certainly you have like the Marvel stuff and the DC stuff, and you have characters that have been created directly through film and television, and like different properties. But in terms of kind of hitting like that mythology, like a mythological level, you know, like especially, and horror has a special place in that. Like horror has the ability to really like kind of do that instantly, right? Like, I mean, you know, it's got like that, you know, that Chucky, Halloween, you know, Michael Myers, like it's you know, Freddy Krueger, as we mentioned, like there's something about horror that if you hit on a really good horror film with a good story, Saw classic now, right? Like all of a sudden it hits a certain level. And it's so interesting to me that this thing would even be in question, right? Like it really does seem like, and this is something that I never understood, maybe just because I come from the animation and comic world, and just even startups, like why isn't there like a novel series of the Nightmare on Elm Street right now? Like that shit would be huge. Like why? Like Star Wars did it right. You know, like you had the toys, and then there's books, and then there's animation. I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street had a TV show back, I think in the 90s, like a horror show, kind of like a Twilight Zone kind of thing, which was actually pretty good from what I remember. But like it seems like it seems like Slender Man got to that level, and then it was just like, okay, we did a couple movies, peace out. And it seems like it's so open to it's an undiluted brand, right? It's a concentrated brand, which I can't believe like more people aren't, you know. I think it's a really cool idea, you know. Like is there like if you have to work with if the author has it, like is there a dispute? Does it like the author says he has it and the studio says they have it, or is it just like neither of them know? Or
it's in question, because we've at this point done all of the due diligence that we can, and the conclusion that we're kind of coming to is that when Mythology Entertainment dissolved, and it's unclear even in the public records if they went bankrupt or what happened there. You know, one is led to believe that the rights defaulted back to the original holder, who is this individual creator, Victor Surge. And he is just retaining it, because if you recall too, you know, earlier last decade there was some bad press around Slender Man with, you know, this it was a murder case. Really, it's a really unfortunate story that Slender Man was just kind of the not the scapegoat for, but he was like the main topic of discussion for it. So there's a lot of, at the same time of it being, like you said, this fertile property, it's kind of went dormant because it has had a lot of baggage alongside of it. And it's our feeling now that has kind of been, you know, it's kind of been long enough in the cultural consciousness to where now it's like this vintage thing, and it might be a little edgy. Let's see what we can do by bringing it back. So as far as we can tell, what would have happened in that situation is that the rights defaulted back to the original creator, and it's going to be getting in front of him and going through his agent to, you know, hash out a deal. Because the other interesting thing about Slender Man is that it has that level of being like this classic monster, in that same sort of pantheon, but it's internet native. It's completely centralized story. So, and part of the reason why is because this original creator, Victor Surge, was very lenient with independent creators, using his IP to create stuff. We're optimistic about a particular, you know, effort.
That's really cool. I mean, that actually kind of leans into your case a little bit. When you have a creator that's pretty cool and fairly lenient with the spreading of that work. I mean, that lends credibility to it, and lends, especially to something like SlenderDAO, I think that lends a lot of credence to being able to do the thing, right? Because you mentioned Constitution DAO and all these other things. It's like, you know, there's so many things that go on where it's like, man, that'd be incredible, and it just becomes damn near impossible to pull off for whatever reason. And you know, I would say, like, if this was like, oh yeah, we're just gonna go to Paramount and go ask them for something, like, that'd be really freaking hard, or whoever the company is, right? Not to say you couldn't do it. I mean, money is money, and they need licensing, right? But if you have access to the creator, or you feel like you can kind of go through the agent to get to the creator, and the creator has a history of being fairly open to this kind of thing, that puts so many points in your camp within the potential of, like, oh, like, this is actually plausible, you know? And it's actually, and I would contend that I think it's because, and I mean, fair enough, I'm 100% biased, because, you know, with our project, we do the same thing, where it's like, you know, and well, Web3 is this way, right? It's like, yes, take it, go do your thing. Like, you know, like, please help us spread the word, make money off our stuff, like, do it, whatever you want. Like, the Web3 has a lot of that. And so I think that helped. I mean, there's a reason why Slender Man is, I think, I mean, when I think of, like, the pantheon of movie monsters, like, Slender Man definitely is levels above something like Candyman, right? Like, even though they're kind of they should be at the same level based on, like, box office or just kind of like penetration, you know, it's not like they had 13 movies, you know what I mean? Like, but it, because of that, because of the openness and because of the internet side, it just pushed up higher, you know what I mean? And then honestly, like, you know, I think even having something like a case that kind of ties into it, regardless of you know, the horrible, you know, the realism, like, of what actually happens, you know, they did the same thing occurred to Black Sabbath back in the day, right? Where you had these massive legal cases of, like, you know, if they're held liable for stupid stuff that other people do, you know? So it adds a little bit of cultural credence to it in terms of cultural value, I think, you know, like, you know, it's really something that yeah, man, I could absolutely see you guys doing, like, a complete universe around it.
You know, we're trying. I think the biggest thing to acknowledge is, like, you know, we don't have this. So, in not having the rights yet to option, what is it that we can do to earn that? And, you know, we are, like, we've produced a feature film. We have, like, multiple shorts, web series, all that stuff, like, accessible through our Beam channel, and in the Web3, like, space, like, with Bingeable, like, we're distributing our feature film with them. And so, like, we can't expect to just come from nothing and go to Victor Surge or someone who is kind of holding on to the IP for, you know, integrity reasons, or, you know, for whatever purpose, and be like, hey, we've done nothing, like, give it to us, like, we'll raise money. It's like, it's not just about raising the capital, it's also about earning the trust of an audience and showing them that we can deliver on these kinds of stories, and then taking that and saying, like, listen, like, we are, like, fueled by passion and not by our bottom line here. Like, we're not trying to pay investors, like, who invest on the stock market in our company. We are, like, a little thing that is trying to tell a story in a way that matters, and we think that is the biggest appeal that we can make. So if you take what we're doing now with, like, you know, our content is really all driven towards cryptid, Bigfoot-like, esoteric stuff like that. And it's like, well, yeah, like, we went to the blockchain, to the decentralized infrastructure of the internet, to tell decentralized stories. And historically, what is that? That's the folklore, that's the myth telling, it's all that stuff. So we sort of align thematically with the ethos that exists in this space. And we think that Slender Man can sort of be a beacon and a tentpole that can draw people to more decentralized storying, not only for, like, us, but actually for the entire, like, Web3, Film 3 space, because we all know you know, we have a lot of internal discussions on spaces between, like, the whole community, but, you know, our conversations have greatly turned towards how do we get more people like, you know, into this, but also to actually watch the things that we're making and participating more actively. So, the hope is that we can do something special, work on what we work on now, hone our voices as tellers who create these kinds of stories, whether they're horror, cryptid, esoteric kind of stuff. And in the meantime, let the world know that we have a goal and we're chasing after something, and you're going to help us get there.
Yeah. And I think you're one of the things I like about the way you guys are setting this up is the website slenderdao.xyz. It's got artwork on it. It's beautiful. It's really well designed. And I think it acts, and I'm sure you guys had this in mind, but like by building the community around the site and around the project and actually having a really nice landing page and things like that, it also adds to the eventual pitch, right? Because then you're able to say, no, we have X amount of people. We've got this community. There's a lot of people that really love what you created. Check out our website. This is something that could really be a thing. We'd love to help your legacy. This is if the creator actually owns it, then it's his legacy, right? And it's something, straight up, if it was me, at that point, it should be CCO'd and just, it would take off like a rocket. Like, you've got an internet-based horror character, just let it go. And it would live forever, man.
There's actually, Anthony, when we first were talking about this idea, we were doing some research, and Anthony came across this paper. I forgot. It was like a Florida Law Review or something. And it was like
in the Florida Law Review, someone took Slender Man and did a whole thing of is this community, is this IP owned by an individual, or is it already decentralized? Is it is it public domain? I forgot what the name of the article it was specifically, but it's in the Florida Law Review. And
did they decide it was, what was the
they conclusion? Just make a case. They just provide evidence. And
that's actually interesting.
I've read it from front to back, and my mouth was just open the whole time in terms of just how juicy of a thing it was, being so interested in it. It doesn't make a decision necessarily from what I remember, right, but it definitely, you start to see how one could build a case going either direction with it.
That also makes it great for you guys as well. If there is actually that's brilliant, because then you also have legal options regardless of what someone says. Certainly if the creator said, no, I don't want to do this, you guys suck, or whatever, then you might want to respect that. But if it's a studio that's no, you can't do this, well, then you have a case. You actually have a case. There's actual evidence out there that this is debatable, right? And there's legal precedent. There might be legal precedents for the fact that you might be free and clear to do it, which would be pretty badass.
Yeah, we would be even the rights is just one component of it, because if that were the case, we would just say we're making a Slender Man movie and we're financing for it directly instead of financing for.
Right. Well, that's what I mean, right? You get to be double barrel middle finger,
Yeah. And if it's
hopefully we're shaking hands, not flipping. No one's flipping each other.
Sure. Of course. Yes. Friendly.
Yeah,
sorry, that's just me. I don't know.
It's in the case that somehow it's a more sticky situation with the rights, and Mythology Entertainment was in trouble with some creditors, and the creditors now have the rights, and well, at that point it becomes a little bit more difficult of a task. But then we have this thing in our back pocket where we can say, look, there, like you said, there might be legal precedent for it just belonging to the internet anyway. So that's why we're super interested in exploring this avenue of internet culture and how it can fit into what we've already done.
Yeah, that's wicked, man. I definitely have some questions really quick. I want to pop over and check out chat, say hello to everybody. Willie D, what up? Hello, LFG, let's go. This is, everybody was kind of betting on me being late. Rageous and KG and Willie G. What's up? Wonderful people. MK, how are you doing? Good morning. Dusty says, welcome, Dusty. Dusty says, make sure you like and subscribe and say something in chat to be put on the picker wheel to win a free NFT. We're going to select a winner at the end of the show. That is absolute. Bad Kitty, what's up? Welcome. Oh, MK called it was Freddy's Nightmares. That was the name of that show back in the 90s. That show. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. And I granted, like, I wasn't super young, so I'm kind of dating myself. But I remember that show being scary as hell. Like it wasn't like some basic cable, like, oh, just in name only. Like it was actually pretty darn scary. Galaxy Rider, what's up, Galaxy Rider? How are you? Says I would watch, definitely. Carrots, late but here, never late. Carrots, always on time. Everyone's saying what's up to Carrots. Studio 7.62. That's Avery Butterworth, artist extraordinaire. What's up, Avery? How you doing? We do a lore games on Thursdays where we have a community get together to beat out major events in our universe. And so Avery's a part of that, as are others in the chat, which is awesome. Welcome, Avery. How you doing? So what are you? I think, Zach, you said something earlier, and I wanted to dive into it. So let's assume that you get this, and you guys work out whatever the things are, and you have the ability to do this. What then? Like, is it? You mentioned participation, and this is Web3, so there's always. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, and if I am, no worries. But like, there tends to be more community involvement in a Web3 project. That seems just to be the way that we're built. So once you guys get the Slender Man property and you start development, how is that process going to work? Like, how are you thinking about setting that up?
Yeah, I think there's two prongs to it. There's, the idea that it is a community-driven story. So there's the story element, like what is this film actually going to look like? And then kind of hand in hand with that is the financing angle, the more traditional way of getting a film, to have the resources that it needs to execute the vision. And for that portion, Anth can maybe speak to that a little bit. We're going to go more of a traditional route. And luckily there's spots in the Web3 Film 3 space that are kind of closing the gap between like the traditional financing and these more forward-thinking Web3 ways. So I'll kick it over to Anth real quick to talk about like the financing angle of it, and then I can go ahead and take it back for the story element.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hybrid for sure. I mean, when it comes to wanting to get this movie in front of as many people as possible, that's when in the beginning, in pre-production, in the early stages of trying to find the right partners for this, we find the people who are actively motivated to that same end goal. And whether that's getting it on a major distributor that exists, like on one of the big apps that are out there, or making this a Film 3 exclusive thing that will bring, that will specifically maybe we'll come out with something theatrically, but in terms of it existing here in the internet, existing within a Web3 infrastructure. So that's going to be how we engage conversations, like who's looking for what, and what sort of capital will come along with those agreements, because we ultimately want to get this out to as many people as possible, and to hopefully have that be something that invites people into the broader ecosystem that we're creating with the Hidden Lake cinematic universe at large, which, we have so many different things that are coming out. When it comes to building community, we want to invite as many people into the filmmaking process who want to be there. The way that I think about it is like the fans who like to watch the extra material on DVDs. It's like, cool, what can we do to give them that DVD experience while the film is actually being made, instead of afterwards? And how could they potentially inform that? So I think what we'd like to do is not put as much pressure on a community to fund the film, but rather seek funding from larger sources that would be able to make our vision for the community possible. Because there's so much pressure put on Web3 fans
Yes.
Frankly, it's like insane the amount of ask that has been put on people to buy a token, buy this, do that. And it's like, we're getting a lot more specific about what that ask is for us. And like, we made our 10K project like completely free and sold out in a couple hours. And it was a long journey getting to that point. But when we realized it was more about like actually having like, building up a following and exchanging goodwill, and not just being like, oh, I want the community like to fund our project. And believe us, we tried that. The data for us was that it's not going to work, but it came from like when we really did the deep work of being like, well, what are we really trying to do? It's if we want genuine fans. We don't want to have to put pressure on fans to give us all of their money all the time. If you want to have a poster that you printed out from a screenshot online of a movie we made and you want to put that on your wall, and do that, like that's that means so much more to us.
Yeah, I think you're kind of hitting on a couple things there that are really fascinating. I do think that a lot of projects tend to put way too much weight in the sale, right? I mean, everyone wants to sell and everyone needs money, and these are all businesses, and so we understand that you have to have some kind of revenue to push any kind of business forward. But with that said, it's also beyond the financial aspect of the NFT and the exchange and blah blah blah, utility, all that kind of crap. Like beyond just that, what you're doing is you're at the end of the day, if you broke it down to its core, you're galvanizing an audience behind a cause. And that in itself, and I don't think a lot of people, and I think you touched on it, but I don't think a lot of other people recognize this just yet, is that while most of the industry is interested and tied to the launch and the sale, like, look, we got X amount of millions of dollars and are 99% unique, blah blah blah. Like, they're forgetting that what they've really done, and even what's more important, is that they now have an audience that cares about what they're doing and is ready to be there for support. And that in itself, it has value, not just because the community obviously itself has value because you want to have a strong community, but just even from a financial, like, pitching, when you're going out there and you're pitching to a production company or a VC or whatever, like just the ability to say, hey, this is how many people we have interested, and this is how we're growing, and this is what's happening. That's hugely important, and not a lot of people get that, I don't think, because they're so focused on the dollar sign that they kind of don't see the forest from the trees, right? And what it actually means, where you could go in the future. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I kind of lost my train of thought right there, but like I think another aspect to that people get wrong, especially in these like larger, like really like NFT focused projects, is that like they try to sustain that initial community in a way that isn't really sustainable, right? So like they'll essentially, it's like a bunch of people who gather around to pump a floor price, or pump their bags, and that whole narrative, and after that, it's like, what's keeping people there? What are they actually fans of? And I could tell with adult fantasy right off the bat, like, you guys are doing that super well, and you're avoiding all these pitfalls, and that so many projects, even with like great content like you have and we have, sometimes fall into. So just the fact that we're sitting here saying hi to everyone who's on the chat and like having a good time and hanging out, like this is the exact kind of thing that we need to see more of. And this is the exact kind of thing that's going to carry us into the next bull market, because the conditions are going to change. They have changed, and content and stories and IP are going to be a major driving force in the future of this whole endeavor. So
100%, man. And I couldn't agree more. And I think that one of the things that we talk a lot about, especially since we have a lot of people on this show that come from like the story side of Web3, the storytelling projects tend to be slow burns, right? And this is something, full transparency, I had no idea about that until we started the show, because it's only when you start talking to other founders in kind of the same universe that everyone has kind of the same story in certain aspects. You know what I mean? And it's a harder path, but I think it's the longer running path. It's the long-term plan, because 2021 is just, I don't want to say gimmicks, but they're just trends, like super fast. We had the PFP trend, we had the stake trend, we had the quick play and earn thing, we had this and that. Like, they're just, we could probably sit here and list about 15 different trends that happened between last year and this year, and now they're all gone because, or at least they're all having problems, or they're having to switch up their business models for the most part, because they may have made a lot of money that way in some cases, but now that's no longer an option, and they have to say, oh, okay, so now we got to figure. They're basically with everybody else now, right? Meanwhile, the storytelling projects know that the story has to come first. The story is the foundation. If you're building a Hidden Lake cinematic universe, like, you have that by definition requires thought and planning and story from an expansive mindset. And so you have to sit down and say, okay, this is kind of the playing field. We're not going to have all the answers right now, but here are the rules of the universe. Here are some of the movies or the toys, or the comics, or all the stuff that we're thinking about have to kind of fit in this kind of world. And so you're actually building it from a completely different direction. Whereas these other projects, who probably got paid more faster, for sure, in a lot of cases, especially if they launched last year, like, all of a sudden they have to do it in reverse. They're like, we made the money, awesome, we need story. And I'm telling you, from having done this for 20 plus years, that is damn near impossible. It doesn't matter how much money you have, like, it's really hard to bolt on a universe or bolt on a big storyline after the fact, because people came in for a different reason and they have a relationship to it for a different reason. If you all of a sudden open up a box and say, hey, now the story is revealed, so we're gonna do this, like, you're gonna naturally have people say, wait a minute, that's not what I was thinking it was, right?
Yeah, it's funny, it's like you're talking about the meta narrative, which is, why are people getting involved in the first place? And if you have, like, a bunch of people who got into it because they liked the art and then realized very quickly that actually it was because they were financially motivated, they went in noble, like, oh, like, it totally, like, I love the art. And then all of a sudden, as the values start dropping on these things, it's like, no, I wasn't. It's like, right. And I relate to that kind of thinking. Like, I love to think about my thoughts as being noble, but the second certain conditions remove themselves, I get to really get an understanding of who I am and also what I'm motivated by.
True.
And yeah, there's a number of projects where honestly, that's kind of how it was for me, because getting into the space and witnessing the lack of storytelling that was going on, and watching certain products and being like, tomorrow they're going to do it, tomorrow they're going to have the story, tomorrow they're going to have the story, and it was like, I got worn out. I didn't have the wherewithal to stick through that kind of thing. And I mean, Todd, truthfully, I mean, if we can ask you a couple questions just about, I mean, where you're at with adult fantasy and how you've built an ecosystem around that. I think Zach and I, we are ultimately, we've worked with another artist, we've worked with, like, a dev, but, like, it's really just us two at this, like, doing this. And if we were to add one personnel to our team, like, I we're kind of doing it all. And I have to be honest, like, Zach has built this infrastructure, like, on his back. I mean, it's amazing just to see, just from a technical perspective, from a web design perspective, all the way down to directing a feature film, web series, is like designing everything that with this whole infra thing has been like, what's like a role that we could add to our team that would kind of help us in this next phase of trying to, galvanize around a Slender Man?
Yeah, so that's a great question, man. I would say that the number one thing that I would add, and this is also, I don't know the roles, and we all wear many hats, so I don't know how you break up duties. So I don't know who's working full time on specific what, but assuming that you're wearing all the hats, and assuming that as founders, you're busy trying to build the plan of the universe, do the vision, make the right connections to the studio, and make sure the agents and all that kind of stuff. I would say that the number one person that I would get is someone to help manage the Discord community, because it is a full-time job. I didn't know that when I started. Like our Discord, we've got over 7,000 people in it now, and it's all organic, and it was ridiculously hard to bootstrap, right? And that's what I was like. It was a full-time job, and it still is, and I love it. But I didn't know that when I got into it. You know what I mean? And so there's all the you just have to learn like all the tactics and the techniques, and like, oh, there's a what, people are, you start reaching out to people for giveaways, and they're like, yeah, send me your template. And I'm like, what's a template? I don't know. Like, oh, send me your template. And then they send me, yeah, I'll send you mine. You send me yours first, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's just some copy. Cool. Let me send it back, pretending like I know what the hell I'm doing. But it took a lot more time than I expected. And then I would say that taking that, and the next thing I would do, and that's something that we're doing, is leveraging that up to old school email lists, because I know people like to crap on it, but at the end of the day, being able to move an audience and knowing where they are, and being able to own the relationship is the most important thing, right? Like if Discord goes away tomorrow, like the entire Web3 community dies. You know what I mean? Like it's all NFTs go away if Discord leaves. You know what I mean? Like
protect those servers at all costs.
For real. It becomes really, like, when you think about it like that, you're like, oh yeah, like that's pretty important. So for us, Discord is more important than the website. Most important thing. And it's very difficult, especially since we try to do it without, we never paid for influencers, and we don't and also our community, and this is something that I've learned, and I think every community is different. It may be a storytelling thing. I genuinely don't know, but our community really prefers natural organic growth, right? Like the few times early on, we were doing like right for launch, when we were launching in December of last year, we were like, oh, we're gonna do an invite contest, and like, yeah, invite 10 people, there'll be a leaderboard. And I was like, this is awesome. And I just saw someone else do it, and they had like great results, and their people were like, this is the best thing ever. And I was like, we're gonna be awesome. People are gonna love us. This is great. And so we launched this thing, and it was just like, I was like, you hit the button, you're like, you're gonna love this contest. You push the button, and it's like I could hear my heartbeat, and it's just a pause, and it's just like, scam, bullshit, scam, and you're like, oh no, it's like people like flooded us.
Yeah, it's the keep it real litmus test.
Yeah, I was like, this is bullshit. I was like, oh my god. Like I ended up being like, so wait, stop. Like I'm typing. I literally like pulled out my phone, and was like, hey everybody, we didn't expect this. So give us a minute, and everyone was like laughing at me, which is fine. Like, but I think they understood that we didn't, we just stopped it immediately. So every community is different, but I think working with your community and having that be as a full-time thing is probably like outside of founding team and outside of like marketing, like it's tied into the marketing leg of your business. But then you also need to support that, because by itself, Discord has flaws, right? Like it doesn't have an advertising platform, and there's no way to it doesn't track people, which is a positive, but that also means it's up to you to figure out ways to start to build a list, right? Like that's why Facebook groups are so popular. Facebook groups are popular with a lot of people and other, like basically anything other than Web3, because when people pop into Facebook groups, Facebook tracks them, right? Which you don't need their email address. All you need to be able to do is serve ads to them. So you can, inside of Facebook, inside of like their ad platform, you can be like, hey, take everyone go look at the people who are in my group and find me people who are like them, right? You're not even trying to say track these people. You're just saying, hey, find out some of the common things in between all of these people, and go find me some other people that are like that might be interested in my thing. And that's super powerful, and Discord doesn't have that. Does that make sense? So it's kind of a balance, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, like this what you're talking about right now should be like a textbook for new founders who are trying to get in the game, because this tracks so completely 100% on the money with our experience. And admittedly, in the past, me and Anthony have been like, Discord, we don't want to do that. We're not good at it. We'll just kind of like let
Yeah.
it, kind of be a thing that's there. But recently, we've kind of redone the Discord to fit more of a specific niche that we feel like we can sustain. At least in terms of the hidden ones aspect, the PFP aspect of what we're doing. And that's been much more successful. It's much more of a way to track giveaways for very super fan type profiles of folks that are just really into what we're doing. Folks that got involved in the project late a year ago, and during the kind of more bullish conditions, and then I've just stuck around, and those are just your MVPs as a project founder.
You guys have a huge advantage too, in that you're tying into something that millions of people actually know about, right?
That's the hope.
So if it was me, so one of the things that we're doing, and I can't disclose all of it because we're still figuring it out, but based on all my previous experience with like advising startups and working with startups and launching a lot of products, it's not different people like different things, right? Some people love to read books, and some people love to listen to audiobooks, and some people like to listen to podcasts, and some people like to read blogs. Everybody is different. And so when you take that to the audience level, it's not necessarily so important as where people are in your ecosystem, as long as they're there, right? So we have an email list that I'm growing, but we also have Discord. And a lot of people that are in the Discord are not on the email list, and vice versa. Likewise, because of what you guys have, it doesn't necessarily, I certainly would focus on Discord and grow that, because that's become a core tenet of Web3. But that's not the only avenue, because you have something that millions of people know about, guaranteed, because millions of people saw the movie, right? Whether it's top of mind or not, they know the name, right? Oh yeah, I remember that scared the hell out of me as a kid, that kind of thing. But it's an unknown percentage of those people that understand or in Web3, right? So you're kind of cutting a niche of a niche. So if this was my project, what I would be doing, and I can tell you straight up, we're actually looking at ways to do this with our own project. I would actually start to set up other ways to attract audiences outside of necessarily Web3, right? Because you have the Web3 component. It's like Web3 Slender Man. So you've got people that are attracted to Web3 Slender Man. You also have people that are attracted to Web3, which is Discord people. And then you have people that are attracted to Slender Man. So why cut your audience? Why not start looking at something like Facebook ads? And people always get confused with Facebook ads, because I think it's just like Facebook, forgetting that Facebook owns 13 different platforms or whatever. They own ad networks. So it goes everywhere. You open an app and it's an ad, Facebook owns it. So or Google. So learn to do some ads, pull those people in, and get their email. It doesn't, say, hey, we're going to open up we're bringing back Slender Man, right? You don't have to talk about Web3, get on the email list, and then you can kind of bring them in. You can just straight up bring them in to education about Web3 and what a DAO is and all that kind of stuff. And that's, again, I'm biased because we're actually starting to do that in our own world, is we're getting ready for the next bull run. We don't know when that is. I think it's going to be a while. I think it's going to be a few years personally. So why not be the people educating all of these new people who are going to come in? Do it now. Bring them in, right? And bring them in come to them and meet them in a spot where they're ready to be met, right? And then slowly educate them on all that other stuff, right? And that'll grow your audience. And then you have more of leverage when you go after financing or after the actual property. My 2 cents.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. Yeah, I mean, that's something that we're talking about. And I think, Zach can kind of speak to this next thing that he's made. But now I think part of what's motivated this movement of engineering, reverse engineering the process, because I think these sound like things that maybe you would bring to any industry outside of Web3, right? You would think if you were building a business, maybe these would be the primary focuses. but it seemed like, you know, in 2021 that there was built in such a huge audience for all this stuff. And now we see so many of those people gone. And we're like, wait, this was going to be the audience. Where are they? Where did they go?
That's right.
And so now we're all in these positions to be like, okay, well, actually, like, let's dribble the basketball. Let's do the fundamentals. I can't even cross it over yet. I can't throw it up into the hoop quite yet. So, you know, it's funny because we were given this promise is what it feels like. And it feels like it sort of the rug, was pulled from under us.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's the whole thing. Everyone's like, we make jokes now that the Web3 space is like Monty Python. You know, it's just like retreat, you know, flee. You know, there's people are just running away. You're like, what?
I would put my hands in my sleeves and, you know, do the armless thing. Right.
That's right. Let's see. Carrots asked a question. He says, "Are people still reading emails much for Web3 audiences?" Great question, and I would say maybe. The point is that, like, so we on our mint site, so we created a minting site, and we partner with some companies and projects to do launches for them, right? After you go through that process and you mint, we have a modal pop up that says, hey, you know, sign up for our newsletter, you'll get alpha, and we'll let you know when other drops are coming from other partners. Like we get, like, when those projects go live, so when that modal is live, we get a pretty high people sign up. We've had like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, and we're talking from like one or two launches. And so some people in Web3 don't want to do email, and that's completely fine. That's what Discord and Twitter are for, right? But some people do. And then you have these other group of people who don't know anything about Discord or Twitter or Web3, but might still like your project, and they don't know that they're going to be in Web3 for like another 3 years, right? We all know it's called Web3 for a reason. Everyone's going to be doing this. This is the future. Like, you will, if you don't have a Web3 business, I don't think you're going to have a business in a few years. Like, I'm pretty, at least in my universe, I'm very confident about that kind of stuff, right? Web3 is coming. It's going to affect all of us somehow, even if it's just like Amazon having an ETH checkout cart. Like, it's going to be everywhere. And so if that's true, right, then we have an obligation to reach out and allow people to come into our universe however they see fit. It's not about me. You know what I mean? Like I shouldn't be the one to dictate how somebody wants to hear about my thing, if that makes sense. If, you know, some people, like I said, some people are there. I promise you, there'll be a generation of people that come in that will want to be a part of Web3 that are 100% email and have no desire, will never show up to Discord. Right. So you have to do all of them, but you have to kind of do it in an intelligent way. And the other reason for email, honestly, is that it protects, it's a business asset. It literally has in terms of structuring a business, it has financial value. There are companies that are bought and traded and sold for tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, purely because of the database of contacts. That's why literally everything you sign up for asks for a username that is your email address usually, and a password, because that email address has a monetized value associated with it, right? And more important than that, it protects the business. Again, if Twitter bans you, right, or if Discord dumps you, or something happens, if you don't have that, how are you going to contact your audience? How do you let them know? What are you going to do? Like, you're done. You know what I mean? Like, it's really serious. So it's a protection as well, right? It's not necessarily like, you know, oh, we want Web3 people to sign up to email. It's like, hey, you know, this actually helps us out. If you're interested in signing up, awesome. We'll give you some behind the scenes stuff that you might not get elsewhere. If that makes sense. KG says, we read Todd's emails. That's right. Yeah, man, email marketing is great. Emails are fantastic. And I try to, like, with mine, you know, I'm not like selling that much through it. I'm just like, hey, check out the video. Hey, check out this interview with SlenderDAO. You know, by the way, you know, here's what I'm thinking about today, you know, and I talk about my life and all this other kind of stuff. And it's another way to connect with people. You know what I mean? It's more immediate than a blog. So you're sending the blog to them, right? So
yeah, 100%. That's something that we've we realized like very recently. It's like we really should have an email list. So we kind of set up the pipeline for that, and people have been signing up. So it's still king. It's still king.
Yeah, you gotta remember there's 3 billion people on Earth, and you know, you gotta, like I said, it's really hard to get out of yourself, be like, this is the way it should be. But you know, like, look, I to Carrot's point, I think the way that Web3 tech is going, I'm fairly certain that within a year or two, MetaMask will probably create a wallet-to-wallet encrypted messaging service, and that will just be the future of email. Like, why wouldn't it just go encrypted right to your wallet? You know what I mean? Like, that seems to be so. I mean, I've seen beta tests for it for other companies that are doing it. So it seems like it's going to be the future, which makes perfect sense. But it just reinforces the idea that, you know, message to, you know, a person-to-person messaging is not going away, right? It just might be, instead of having Gmail own your email, it'll be you that owns it, right? Like, once that's the difference, which is great, you know. So man, I love what you guys are doing. So I'm also curious, and I know we're kind of running out of time here, but one of the other questions that I have for you guys, one of the final questions I have for you guys is, like, you know, you talked about kind of bringing in Slender Man into the Hidden Lake cinematic universe, right? What is the Hidden Lake cinematic universe?
We've got our copy straight, and I'm trying to do it justice in this next sentence, but it's the internet's monster mystery franchise, and we use the word internet instead of Web3 because we have this exact type of ambition that you're talking about, Todd. But it's a fictional world that's built of decentralized folkloric tales surrounding monsters like Bigfoot, Mothman, existing stuff that we've created, like the Hidden Man or the indigo purple vampire fern. And it's what we're really trying to do is give the mythology of the internet over to the internet. Ownership of the stories that they want to be told, that they want to create, within this sort of concept of having a monster, mystery, supernatural, paranormal franchise built on Web3 rails. And in ideally 2-3 years, when the next bull market comes, you know, that will be established very, very clearly from an infrastructure standpoint. I'm also head of product at a platform called Greenlit Protocol, which is a decentralized rights management tool. We're going to be interfacing with them for us. It's another me wearing a different hat, and we're going to be, you know, kind of plugged into Greenlit for, you know, the eventual SlenderDAO deal, and it is going to happen. But yeah, in so many words, I don't know, Anth, if you want to correct me or add some color at all. That's kind of what we got going on.
Yeah, you know, the way I think about the stories we tell, speculative campfire mysteries, like things that spook you. You know, that's kind of like something that just kind of gets under your skin, but isn't always going to be horror. It can be, but it you know, it's about you know, getting people thinking about the greater mysteries that exist in the world from like a bigger standpoint. And we love that about folklore, and we hope that, you know, what we're doing is an invitation to continue the traditions of decentralized storytelling.
Oh, that's so awesome, man. That's a great way to sum it up. Before we go, we got one other thing. I'm going to bring Dusty back on. And if he wants to do, we've been calling it the Wheel of Pain, although I don't know why. I don't think we have like a better name for it, other than like, you know, the spinner wheel, the picker wheel.
I think it should be called the Wheel of KG, because somehow KG always seems to win.
Yeah, it's a running gag. We got KG who has only won like a couple times, but we've just announced that he wins all the time.
Awesome. Are we ready to spin? I think we're ready to spin.
I think so. So we got Bad Kitty, MK Cronus, Willie D, KG, Rages, Carrots, Galaxy Rider. I think Studio. Well, I guess Studio is not qualified. So there you go. Let's say KG, LFG, Wheel of K. KG wants it called the Wheel of KG. All right, let's do it.
All right, here we go.
Watch the internet go out. Oh,
Willie
who's that?
D.
Willie D.
Yes.
Awesome. Willie D.
Congrats, Willie
Congrats,
D.
man. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Dusty, tell him what he's won.
You have won an Adult Fantasy Min Pass #1, which is burnable for the Devoid Origin comic soon.
Yeah, we're working on that. It's really exciting. Man, I can't wait for that. It's gonna be really, really fun.
Oh, it's so good.
Wheel of KG calls it the Wheel of Willie D now. Yeah, MK says he won a free email from Todd.
Make sure you read it.
That's right. It'll be an empty email. It'll be the no prize. We'll do the Marvel no prize for Adult Fantasy. It'll just be like congrats and like small font or something.
Maybe a picture of Todd, smiling.
That's not a bad idea, man. That's not a bad idea. Like real cheesy. I'm down for it. Well, awesome. Congrats, Willie D. That's fantastic, dude. You totally deserve it. And Dusty, thank you, sir. Just like that. I love it. It just throws them away. So guys, this was fantastic, man. SlenderDAO, where should we send people? How do we get people in front of this?
Yeah, like you see on the bottom there, SlenderDAO.xyz is sort of the main landing page, and from there you can see links to our normal site, hiddenones.xyz. That's all minted out. They're currently on OpenSea for like $2, less than $2 USD. So you'd be crazy not to pick one up. You could see all the movies that we've already done on our Beam space, which is hiddenones.beam.xyz. In the coming months, we're going to be rebranding to the Hidden Lake Cinematic Universe proper, where all this stuff is just kind of under that umbrella. But that should give you some pretty good starting points.
Awesome, man. Everybody, go check out SlenderDAO.xyz. It's a super cool project. It's absolutely achievable. You guys are awesome. So thank you guys so much for coming out tonight. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, likewise, Todd. It's fantastic talking to you today. And we love adult fantasy. And we saw the art on the site and we're just like, holy shit. Like finally someone has not only a cool shit, but like a lot of cool shit.
Oh yeah.
So we're happy to chop it up with you today.
Yeah, the ecosystem that you've built and are clearly continuing forward on. I mean, it's a model for us for sure. We really look up to you guys.
I appreciate that so much, man. And that I know the whole team and the whole community appreciates that well. It means a lot. Thank you guys so much. Everybody, thank you so much as well. Thank you so much for showing up. We appreciate you. We love you guys. SlenderDAO.xyz. Go check them out. And until next time, we will see you in Discord. We'll see you on Twitter. Everybody, you know it.